Global markets are on edge, watching UK right now, which is, of course, considering exiting from the EU. And make no mistake, this is more than just about economics. Many are worried that a vote to leave could provide that spark that will push more isolationism, maybe nationalism, that movement that's already growing across Europe. In the UK, the vote is seen as a rebuke of the establishment. A YouGov poll just recently found that voters believe EU membership benefits those powerful, like big businesses and politicians, but hurts everyday citizens like low-income earners and small businesses. I happen to think that the UK should probably leave, but I do add that the caveat that there could be some serious issues if it's not done the right way. And, of course, Janet Yellen noted in her speech today that the so-called Brexit is a very, very big issue. Ultimately, the vote has enormous ramifications on our economy as well, even the race for the White House. Joining me to weigh in, Al Agrasani, Steve Forbes, and Mark Aesch, author of Saving America. Steve Forbes, let me go to you first. I don't know where you stand on this. Do you think they should stay or leave?
I think they should stay. I think politically it would be a disaster for Europe. Those xenophobic nationalist forces would be strengthened, which have been damped since World War II. Economically, it's going to hurt Britain. Some people seem to think it'll get a free pass in terms of trading with Europe, but Norway and Switzerland have to pay for the privilege. The Brits will too. It'll also lead to the breakup of the United Kingdom. Scotland wants to stay in the EU. If Britain pulls out, there's going to be another independence referendum, and this time Scotland may go independent.
Yeah, I've read that as well, too. Mark, here's the thing. A lot of people are saying when it's sovereignty, that ultimately the deal hasn't worked out. They like to control their borders. They like to have more say. I remember a few years ago when Iran took a couple of British naval ships and they had to go to Brussels to kind of get marching orders, if you will. I think the people in the UK are saying, we just kind of want to run our own thing now.
Yeah, you know, I went to college in London, so I'm very familiar with the experience. Been there obviously a number of times. And I think what you're going to see play out on this is you're going to see much like the Scottish vote, as Steve was saying. You're going to see people play footsie with it right up to the end. And then at the end of the day, folks are going to back off and say, geez, we really need to make sure that we make the right play here and really jumping into the pot.
You wrote the book Saving America. Would this save England? Leaving or staying, which one would be more likely to help save England?
It's remarkable we're having this conversation on D-Day, right, where literally we launched the invasion from there. The smart play for England is to stay. That is absolutely the smart play. And it's the smart play really for Europe and arguably for America for stabilization.
You know, here's the thing, Al. The irony is that there's so many of the frustrations mirror the frustrations of America. You look at these polls and they see it's an establishment thing. Only the establishment benefits from this. Poor people don't think they benefit from it. Pensioners don't think they benefit from it. The farmers, no one out there who is struggling day to day seem to believe that they are benefiting from this deal.
And I'm going to disagree with my two esteemed colleagues. I think they should leave, and I'll tell you why. There are bigger forces here at play, so what you're getting at. The EU is a failed business model. And what you're seeing, just like you read my book, One for the Shareholders, when a company's business model fails, right, people look for the lifeboats. You have to break the company up. You got to fix it. You got to revisit the basic core value proposition that made it successful. What you're seeing happen here is the shareholders, the citizens in Europe, in these various countries, rejecting the political, economic, and social benefits of the EU.
But, Steve, using that same analogy, he's talking about going bankrupt, right? Isn't there a happy medium where they can actually use this vote to extract some concessions from the EU, perhaps, to find a happy medium there?
Yeah, Europe's not a company, and breaking up Europe, we're going to get back to where we were in the 1930s, and we don't want to redescent to that. What Britain should be doing, by contrast,
is having... 1930s, you mean, not just economically.
No, politically, when Europe fractures, the whole world pays a price. That's one reason why the United States supported first the common market and then the EU. They didn't want a repeat of 2 world wars. The other thing to keep in mind, though, about in terms of Britain and Europe, is that Britain should be more actively diplomatically. You know, Central Europeans, Eastern Europeans, the Baltic states, they want more free markets than the Western Europeans do. And Britain should be putting together a coalition to make the EU less statist. They would get a lot of support.
Mark, I'll give you a final word on this. Do you think it could be that detrimental that we could actually descend? We saw in Austria where the far-right candidate almost pulled off a major victory in a nationwide election where just maybe 2 or 3 years ago it was it would have been unfathomable that this guy could have come this close and almost have won.
It is. So pull that into America's context today, Charles, exactly to your point, right, where these things can ultimately lead. What leads to votes and leads to us even having this conversation is when you have governments that spend trillions of dollars more than they take in. They have bridges that are falling
You're a Donald
down.
Trump backer, though, right? You support Donald Trump?
I support throwing touchdown passes, right? I mean, we need to start putting some points on the scoreboard.
I think Donald Trump thinks that they should vote to get out of the agreement.
Here's what I know is having a government that spends 30% more money than it takes in every year and still has bridges falling down, still has kids that we can't educate, and still can't get safe drinking water to kids, that's what leads to these votes. That's what leads to this conversation.
And then you throw in the crisis, the migrant crisis, and you can see why the average person out there feels like, hey, we've got to cut the cord. Thanks a lot, gentlemen.